Good evening, viewers, and welcome to yet another interesting edition of Point Blank. I'm your regular host, Demola Alalade. On tonight's program, we're going to be looking at various social issues. We're going to be looking at domestic violence. What is domestic violence? What causes domestic violence? And who are the victims of domestic violence? And what are the support and the help that is available out there for victims of domestic violence? We're also going to be looking at why kids end up in social care in this part of the world. What is it? Because of lack of parental care? Those are some of the issues we're going to be looking at on tonight's edition of the program. To discuss these issues with me tonight is a qualified social worker and a TV presenter, Miss Susie Iretiola. You're welcome to the program.
Good evening, Demola.
Yeah. Very quickly, we're going to be looking at domestic violence.
Yeah.
What is domestic violence, and what are the causes of domestic violence?
Domestic violence is violence that happens within the home. It's used to describe violence that happens within between husband and wife, spouses, so basically couples that you have in a relationship. What are the causes? Now, there are so many causes when it comes to domestic violence. I think one of the main causes is low self-esteem. When I say low self-esteem, I mean you have someone within the household, could either be the man or the woman, because don't forget, domestic violence is not only something that happens to women, it also happens to men as well. They are abused by their spouses, and sometimes you find that people have low self-esteem, and a way for them to feel better is by inserting control on their partners. So, and if their partners do not respond to whatever rules, orders, or whatever laws they're putting down, their way of reacting to it is by either physically or emotionally abusing that person.
I'm sure our viewers will want to know, because in this part of the world, it's believed that the women are the major victims of domestic violence, and obviously the law frowns at domestic violence against women in this part of the world.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how would you see domestic violence, happening to the men?
Well, obviously, the man is always meant to be the macho person within the household. He's meant to be the head of the household. So a lot of people don't want to believe that a man could be abused by his spouse, who is more often enough a female. But that is not true, because you could have men who are either gentlemen, would never ever hit a woman, but then you have a partner who is very quick to physically hit their male partner, and him being him will not respond in that way. And it's something that a lot of the time is not spoken about, because the men tend to feel more ashamed of being victims of domestic violence than the women, because they want to be looked at as the stronger figure within the household.
Yeah, but I mean, you said something about the man being the macho of the house.
Yeah.
Meaning that, okay, the man, kind of abuses a woman physically. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, you could see that, I mean, women, although they don't physically assault their partners, physically,
Yeah.
but they have other weapons that they use,
So basically, they use their mouth.
kind of.
Okay. Yeah.
So what's your take on that? I mean, how do you think the man should react when the woman is using the mouth as a weapon of domestic violence?
Well, no, you wouldn't say that they're using their mouth as a weapon of domestic violence, because you wouldn't call spouses getting into an argument or a woman being more vocal than the man or being more louder than the man as violence. So you wouldn't call that. That wouldn't be violence. That would be their response. But yes, I do agree with you. There are some women out there, same as men, that take things a step too far and go on until it escalates. And for me, I would say there's a few things that a man needs to do, and one of those things,
yeah, those are the ones I want you to kind of.
One of the things that they need to do is walk away from the situation. At the end of the day, you're having conflict, you're having a verbal conflict with your partner, you don't feel you can get a word in edgeways, walk away.
Yeah, but I
and
mean,
leave
if the
that
man
person
walks,
by themselves.
if the man walks away,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's still going to come back to that house.
Well, hopefully, by the time he comes back to the house, the whole thing has simmered down. Hopefully. And yeah, I do agree. Sometimes, the person is there. As soon as he walks back into the room, it's like everything blows up again. And then at that point, if you ask me, and I don't know what a lot of other people would say, don't you think at that time, if a relationship is that volatile, it's time to end the relationship? Because you're now showing that you can't keep yourselves safe, and especially if you have children within that household.
Yeah.
And then it's about keeping the children safe. It's not only about them seeing you hitting yourselves, it's also about them living in a peaceful, nurturing environment.
So what do you think the law can do to protect children kind of who kind of witness this sort of happenings in the house?
Well,
this domestic violence is happening there.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the things that do happen if a family has a lot of domestic violence, as in these children are witnessing the violence, a lot of the times these kids can be removed from the household, as in with the idea of giving them a safe environment to grow up in. So, as two adults, not only as two adults, but one, if a woman is being abused by a man, physically abused, then you need to think about the effect that it's having on you as a person, the effect that it's having on your kids. So, it gets to a point you need to walk away. One of the things is, domestic violence is a word that shouldn't be used lightly, because we're talking about, it goes as far as some people losing their lives.
That's right.
So, at the end of the day, there are different levels of domestic violence. You have domestic violence within, as in something that happens every day. You can have a situation whereby a man comes home, expects his dinner to be on the table, dinner's not on the table, and the first way he reacts is a slap, a punch to the woman.
Yeah, well, that's out of order, isn't it?
Well, that is totally not acceptable. That is not acceptable. You could have also, where I talk about them being very controlling, you can have a case whereby the man's going to work and he says to the woman, don't step out the house today. Controlling comes in many forms and ways. You can, it can be to the point whereby you're controlling the lady about how she dresses, or even the man. I don't want to see you wearing skirts. I don't want to see you wearing trousers. It comes in many forms, and it's about people being strong enough to recognize what they're going through as abuse, and if they have given ultimatums for these situations to change, and they don't change, for them being strong enough to walk away from that situation for their own safety, as well as for the kid. kid safety, you know, many
So
women.
walking away is one way of dealing with
Walking
domestic
away,
violence.
if domestic violence does not stop, in my opinion, and I say this in my opinion, if domestic violence does not stop and shows no sign of stopping, then walking away becomes the only option. There is no other option, because how else do you get out of it? All you need is one situation where maybe the man picks up, you know, in anger, be it a hammer, be it, you know, any little object around the house, and hit somebody over the head, or someone falls when running.
So walking away, does that involve ending that relationship, or just filing for a divorce? You know, to
Well, if you end the relationship, you're divorcing, aren't you? Because, you know, there are times it's, you know, it's very important that whoever is doing the abusing, if they recognise that what they are doing is not right,
Yeah.
and they recognise that they are losing control, they can't control itself, that they go and seek professional help. People, whatever we do in life, we do for a reason.
Mhm.
So, there are organisations out there that offer counselling services, and a lot of people shy away when they hear the word counselling. Counselling is for everyone. You know, everybody could benefit from different forms of counselling. So them going for counselling is a way of allowing them to face their demons. I call them demons. So it's a way of helping them face their demons and actually realise what is going on, and controlling the demons, letting them look at another way to deal with their anger. So channeling their anger into a different direction, rather than be it through physical abuse.
Okay.
Or
I mean,
emotional.
let's look at domestic violence. We've looked at domestic violence in this
Yeah.
part of the world.
Yeah.
If we now compare it to what's happening in Nigeria, for instance,
Oh, for me.
you know, you have people battering their wives in Nigeria as well. They don't have any access to kind of support that, you know, that's given to them over here.
Yeah.
So in that kind of situation, what's your advice to people who, you know, kind of face the domestic violence happens is in Nigeria as well? It's in
a
other
lot.
parts of the
Yeah,
world.
yeah, I agree with you. You see, when it comes to domestic violence in Nigeria, my experience of domestic violence within Nigeria, it becomes a bit scary for me. That topic becomes a bit scary, because who are you to go into somebody's home within that culture and advise them it's time for you to pack out of your husband's house? Because usually, I think, if a man is being beaten up by his wife, hardly anyone. Yeah, it's possible. Don't forget, domestic violence
I
is
don't
not.
think that will happen in Nigeria.
Of course, it happens everywhere. Don't forget, this is not just about. And there's a myth that domestic violence comes from the man to the woman. It's not true. It goes the other way as well.
Okay.
It's about who is more emotionally strong. It's not just about being physically strong. You might be physically strong, but you might not be a violent person. So,
Okay.
but no, when you say Nigeria, it's really hard, because the culture there kind of advocates that people, you know, deal with that. People stay married, should I say? People stay married for as long as possible. So you'd get women going home, and they're going home with a black eye, with, you know, bumps over their head, their clothes torn. Oh, my husband just beat me. And the first thing the mother would say, or the father would, what did you do wrong? And then after they go through the whole issue of what went wrong, okay, you know what? It's either it's time for you to go back home because you can't sleep here tonight. You have to sleep in your husband's house. It happens.
And then the woman will be scared to go back to the.
But then she has nowhere else to go,
she
because
has
there's
no
no
option.
support system out there. So it's a really, I struggle with that. But over here in the UK, people need to realise that there's organisations there, apart from the police, that will help them. You've got safe homes.
Yeah, but I think because there are organizations out there that can help,
Yeah.
you know, protect the occurrence of domestic violence.
Yeah.
That's why we have a lot of those issues happening in this part of the world.
No, I don't understand what you mean when you say you have a lot of it happening in this part of the world.
Yeah, but we keep hearing about issues of domestic violence in this part of the world, and compared to what we do hear about in Nigeria, or is it just because they don't
It's
mention
because
it?
it's not spoken about here. It's because it's a family thing here. You tell me, when you're living in Nigeria and you can hear couples shouting and screaming at each other next door, what right do you have to go and bang on that person's door and ask what is going on? Whereby here, some people hear the banging, screaming and shouting, and the first thing they do is dial 999. Which policeman is going to come rushing in Nigeria when you call them and say, okay, Labaja, is it Labaja?
No, it's it's
Labaja,
yeah.
Labaja.
Well, we
It
permit
seems
you
to
to pronounce it that way.
Oh,
anyway.
bless, thank you. But no, we'll permit you to. Oh, sorry, Lagbaja
It's
is
called
beating his wife.
Lagbaja.
Lagbaja is beating his wife. So it's like, oh, what will the police say to you? They're going to say, hold on a sec.
You will not even be able to get
if you get
through
through
to the police.
Exactly.
Anyway.
So no, over there it happens. It is not addressed. Over here it happens. It is addressed, but at the same time, a lot of men, or some men, don't let me say a lot of men, some men kind of feel that they use it to their advantage. So it's like, I didn't even touch her and she called the police. All I did was I said something like, oh, you silly woman, or something abusive, and she called the police.
So what do you classify? I mean, we've said abusing your partner physically is
And emotionally.
domestic. That's domestic violence. What other things can you classify as domestic violence?
Emotionally abusing your partner.
What about sexually abusing your partner?
Well, when you go there, then you're actually talking about rape, because don't forget, a husband can be charged for raping his wife if he forcefully has sex with her without her consent. So it is part of it, but it is classed as rape and not domestic violence. It goes a step further.
So what if the opposite happens and the woman tries to sexually abuse the man? What do you call that? Is that still called rape, or?
Of course it is, but it doesn't happen that often, does it?
No, we don't hear much about that.
I think the men are physically stronger. You don't really hear about how often. There are a few cases, but how often do you hear about?
I've never heard.
Half the time, if you hear about a woman raping a man, a lot of people will turn around and say, "Why doesn't he just admit it? He wanted it. Otherwise, how did she do it?" So yeah, so.
I mean, when we're talking about domestic violence and we find out that our kids are around, the kids are around when all these things are happening. Don't you think the kids, kind of watch all these things happen, and they kind of carry that, as they're growing up, and sort of like it affects them.
Well, I think one of the things that a lot of parents don't take into consideration is that when you are raising up your kids, whatever they see you doing has a major influence over them. So you will find that a lot of people who violently or physically abuse their partners have actually witnessed it when they're growing up. So, it has a knock-on effect, and it becomes a cycle.
Okay.
And it just comes back, and unfortunately a lot of abusers don't recognise this, and sadly enough, a lot of abusers don't see themselves as abusers. You could get some of them thinking it's about a control thing. I'm taking charge of my home.
Could this be one of the reasons why kids, young children, end up in care homes as well? Because with kind of witnessing all this, or all this happenings in the home, could allow parents not to, look after these kids properly and neglect them in a way. So some of these things, kind of
have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, that gets them into care homes and start to misbehave.
There's a number of reasons why a child can be taken into the care system. Domestic violence, yes, is one of them. I think there is also a very strong likelihood that if a man or a woman is physically or emotionally abusing their partner, then there is a strong there's strong reason that they would also be doing the same to their kids, because don't forget, it's a power thing. But it's not the only reason why kids end up in the care system. I think when it comes to, if we look at our African counterparts, I think one thing is that a lot of people come to this country, and you come to the Western world and it's about wanting to come to the Western world. So, but then you don't think about the consequences or things that could arise, and then you have kids. Over in Nigeria, it is acceptable for you to physically hit a child. Basically the rule usually is, don't spare the rod to spoil the child.
Yeah.
Rather than spoil your child, beat it out the child. But unfortunately,
did you get some of that when you were growing up as a kid?
I did. Yeah, I did. I got a lot of it because I mean, maybe part of it, I wasn't the easiest child as it was.
I think that's one of the corrective measures that our parents use.
That our parents use, exactly. But also, like a lot of parents do see, my father got in trouble with, my parents got into trouble with social services as well. But they were doing what they knew best. They were doing what they were taught to do as kids.
Yeah.
You understand? That is how they were brought up. But the reason why I feel that people really and seriously need to be fully aware of the impacts of either your child being taken into the care system because of your what could be looked upon as negative parenting skills is because people need to realize that it affects them across the board. It's not just about social services coming into the home and deciding that your child needs to be removed. But if you've done something like hit your child, neglect your child, or emotionally abused your child, that is an offence, and that will go down on your record. And there will be certain jobs you cannot do because you have this record. I've actually witnessed, and also it can affect members of your family as well. Because you've got things like fostering, so you know what fostering is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you've got things like fostering, and I've seen a case whereby a young lady was a foster carer. She was looking after one of the kids who I was looking after as a social worker, and all of a sudden there was an incident where a young person was stabbed in a party and actually died. And so the son got a criminal record. He hadn't been charged. He had a criminal record, and it came to the attention of social services. And because of that, she had to stop fostering. The foster child was removed from her care because of the actions of the son. And also, I know of someone who, when their kids were younger, and they were much younger, they got accused of physically abusing their child. The child was taken away, and later on the woman wanted to go and study social work. She did study social work, but when it came to getting a job, when she went to do her CRB, which is the criminal records check, she couldn't get a job in any job working with kids, basically, or working with any type of vulnerable person because of her criminal record.
So do you think the social care, the social service system in this part of the world, do you think, in your opinion, do you think it works? Because you could see in Nigeria we have, I'm comparing this part of the world to Nigeria, because you have kids, we don't even have a social care system in Nigeria anyway. So you find kids who have been neglected, just roaming the streets of Nigeria and becoming criminals.
Exactly.
So in your opinion, what do you think can be done, to cope this kind of things in Nigeria as well, if we can introduce this sort of system? I
think it's really hard in Nigeria where you don't have a stable government, because at the end of the day, these are things that cost money. You can't take kids off the streets if you have nowhere to send them to.
Absolutely.
So to take a child off the streets, you need to have somewhere to take this child to. That all costs money. You know, having
but Nigeria's got money. There's money in Nigeria.
Yeah, but the money's not flowing in that direction, is it?
Exactly.
Don't forget, taking a child into the care of the local authority, a lot of people don't realise, but it can cost the local authority up to £1,000 a week for that child to be looked after. You know, are we ready for something like that in Nigeria?
Yeah, but I mean, if it's not been introduced there and people don't know.
But then you need to have a government that is ready to put funds into it, because you need people to be trained. So you need, first of all, awareness around it. You need training around it. You need the resources. You need to have residential units. You need to have foster parents for them to go to.
That's right.
And this is something that takes years to build up. It's not something that can happen overnight. So depending on the type of government you get in place, depending on where their priorities lie, yeah, it could happen. But a lot of work needs to be done for it to happen. And also there needs to, in a sense, be a kind of cultural upgrade. And there needs to be, you know, that belief around what type of protection kids need and what can be defined as physical abuse towards kids, emotional abuse and neglect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's briefly talk about the how young girls fall victims of sex exploitation. In this part of the world, we hear on the news every now and again about, you know, young girls being sexually harassed, being sexually abused.
Yeah.
What do you think the government should do to stop this sort of things happening? Because our children, you know, are prone to be, or are how do I put it? They can be victims.
Oh yeah, definitely,
you know,
definitely.
of this sort of abuse.
I think you have to, for one, you have to recognise it, and accept it. To realise, you know, you have to recognise it and accept it for you to be open to it. If you're not open to something, then, you know, then you can't resolve it. At the end of the day, I think the government has put so many things in place to protect kids. But I think it gets harder and harder, especially with the explosion of the internet. So, you know, on the internet, kids are exposed to so much. You know, it's something simple as a lot of parents will say, okay, I'm watching what my kids do. I'm 100% sure my kids are this age and that age. They can go on, like, you've got all these kids apps. You've got one that they call Mushy Monsters, and that's for kids of a young age. But it's for kids of a young age, but they can interact with other kids while they're on Mushy Monsters. I think they've got Movie Star Planet. There's so many of them. They can interact with other kids. But how do you know that that person that they're interacting with is another kid?
Yeah.
They might not be another kid. It might be an adult who is out there grooming them to sexually abuse them. And so I think parents need to be fully aware that if you're allowing your kids to use all these applications, once they can interact with somebody else, then you need to be monitoring it 24/7. You need to, if you're going to allow them, I'm not going to say don't allow them to do it, but if you are going to allow them, you need to have access to the password so that you can go in and you can check. You need to have the computer somewhere where it's visible to you at all times, so there's no secret conversations going on. And you need to put ground rules down for them and say, I don't want you to do this, I don't want you to do that, I don't want you to add a friend, I don't want you to do this. And you need to be checking it on a regular basis. Don't say, oh, let me check once a week. Or, you know, because for a lot of parents, when the kids are in front of the computer or in front of the TV, they're quiet. I've just had a hard day at work. Thank God they are quiet. Yeah, they're quiet, but quiet doing what? So
anyone that is found to be, you know, kind of sexually abusing these young kids, what do you think should be the penalty?
Well, I think there's measures in place.
Because I know that there's actually an old man that was caught recently.
He wasn't caught. You're talking about Jimmy Savile.
That's right.
Well, don't forget, Jimmy Savile's exploits were kind of came out after he died. And, you know, I think with the case of Jimmy Savile, it's a big eye-opener to the whole world. Because at first, when it came out, first of all, that, because don't forget, he was knighted by the Queen. So he was close to the royal family. He was in charge of so many charities that had things to do with vulnerable kids. You know, you can see so many things coming out the woodworks at the moment with this Jimmy Savile situation. Yeah. So I think, you know, when I think of it, it scares me because as a child, I remember writing to Jimmy Savile just to get on his show. And you can imagine, it's now all come out that he was actually abusing kids on his show. On his show. You know, so, and I think that was during the age when there was not so much awareness around sexual abuse of kids, and I think, and the exploitation of the kids. But I think at the end of the day, you know, the internet, television does not help. I think the kids see, like a lot of movie stars, you know, pop stars, and they see them all dressed up in these skimpy clothes, and they want to be part of that. You know, for me...
Do you think sexual education should also be introduced in schools?
I think sexual education needs to be... No, it is in schools. Even when I was in school, I remember they taught us sex education, but it was quite different because it was more around reproduction and then giving birth to a child. Yeah. You know, I think that's where it stopped, if I remember rightly. But I think nowadays it needs to go a step further because for me...
Create more awareness.
More awareness, more understanding. There needs to be a lot more interactive discussions. Parents need to feel more comfortable having these conversations with their kids. Because for me nowadays it's not only about them falling pregnant, the girls falling pregnant, you know, the boys becoming fathers at an early age. It's also about the sexual diseases that are out there that can affect them for life. And the fact that, you know, we don't know what is out there. There are so many kids that have been born with something like the HIV virus. They were actually born with it, so they've got it from birth. But when you're going to school with your friend, you don't know that they could have that virus, you know, and, you know, teenagers are very exploitatory. You know, they're exploring, they're growing up, they're learning. So there needs to be a big bash of awareness on a regular basis.
So at what age do you think these kids, the parents should start to talk to their kids?
I think nowadays we have to be fully aware that kids become sexually aware at a very, very young age because of what they're exposed to. And I think it's something that needs to start taking place in primary school. You know, unfortunately... You know, walk around the streets, have a look around you, and, you know, you can see what some kids are up to. You know, you're just in shock and thinking, oh my God, you know, where did that come from? How did that start? So I think it's something that needs to happen, you know, from primary school. But also I think parents need to have regular conversations with their kids.
Okay.
Difficult it may be, but it's unavoidable.
Thank you very much, Susie. We really want to thank you for coming on the program tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
When next we call on you, you'll be able to, you know, acknowledge our call and
definitely
the program.
Yeah.
And that's all we're going to be able to take tonight on Point Blank. We sincerely thank you for joining us. Join us again same time next week when we'll be coming your way again. From me, it's good night.